Actors spend their whole careers looking for that one role that will change their life, and sometimes they end up regretting it.
Do nude scenes automatically propel you to higher levels of stardom? The answer is complicated, and Alexandra Daddario knows the answer better than most. While Daddario's True Detective character plays an integral role in the downfall of Woody Harrelson's character, many fans of the show remember her performance for a much less sophisticated reason. In episode 2, Harrelson's Marty Hart visits Lisa's house and the two have sex, shattering the audience's view of Hart as a family man with strict morals. In this scene, Daddario bears it all as she seductively undresses herself for a handcuffed Hart.
I thought I was gonna put these on you.
You want this?
What?
Yeah?
Despite the scene's explicit nature, Daddario still felt it was justified within the context of the story, and was mostly just happy to be playing a role that was so different from anything else she had done. She also credited scene partner Woody Harrelson with making her feel comfortable, which she at other times described as nerve-wracking. Unsurprisingly, the scene generated a lot of attention on the internet, which Daddario found flattering despite being something she actively tries to ignore. Although she has no regrets about the scene, Daddario confessed to Men's Journal, "I think that I hadn't been that aware of my sex appeal prior to that. It can be negative, some of the attention, and so I try to ignore some of the more negative aspects of it." Despite the critical success of True Detective, the show's first season was criticized for its portrayal of women. Particularly, one article for The New Yorker cited Alexandra Daddario's character as an example of the show's gratuitous nudity, and accused the showrunners of featuring underwritten female characters who reveal more of their physical bodies than of their personalities. In an interview with the Daily Beast, Daddario rejected these claims of True Detective being misogynistic, saying, "I feel like the story was about these two flawed men, and the women, especially my character and Lily Simmons' character, were there to propel their storylines forward." She further explained that she and the other women on the show also experienced a surge of interest from Hollywood after their appearances, which gave them more power in showbiz rather than less. Daddario talked about this effect in an interview with Collider, recalling a phone call with her manager the day after her episode dropped. She said, "I was sitting on my boyfriend's couch and she calls me in the morning after the episode aired and she was like, 'The phone won't stop ringing.' And all of a sudden, everyone in town wanted to meet with me." She continued to particularly credit her work on True Detective for creating a massive upswing in the opportunities she was offered in Hollywood, and found herself auditioning for more adult-centric films. In fact, weeks after her risque appearance on True Detective, she was cast as one of the leads in the 2015 action movie San Andreas, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
We're not high enough. Get down!
While she felt distant from the True Detective Season 1 cast, she spoke highly of working with The Rock, and The Rock felt the same about her. The two of them worked together again not long after their first collaboration. This second outing together occurred in 2017 with Baywatch, a film adaptation of the iconic television series. In the film, Daddario portrays Summer Quinn, the role originally held by Nicole Eggert in the TV show. True to the nature of a project like Baywatch, this role wouldn't exactly stray from Daddario's previous experience of getting a lot of attention for her body, albeit for different reasons. While the R-rated film didn't feature any nudity from the actress, she still had to put in a lot of work to maintain a more athletic physique for the film. Speaking to Women's Health about her preparation for Baywatch, Daddario said, "I started doing weight training, which I had never done before, and I saw a huge difference. It was kind of amazing the transformation I went through." While Baywatch seemed to come naturally after the success Daddario achieved with True Detective, the film itself was a critical failure and a commercial disappointment. Unsurprisingly, Baywatch garnered accusations of sexism and objectification similar to those directed at True Detective, with Rolling Stone writing in their 2-star review that the film's female actors are, quote, "left trying to fight their way out of various babe stereotypes."
Do you just look at my boobs?
I was not my intention. I didn't stare directly at them.
You're looking at them right now.
This wasn't the only subsequent project that required her to flaunt her body. Also in 2017, Daddario co-starred with Kate Upton in The Layover, in which they play roommates vying for the attention of an attractive seatmate after their vacation flight is rerouted due to a hurricane. At the time, Daddario spoke highly of the film's female-centric story, and also felt like she was getting used to being considered sexy. She told Collider, "It wasn't something that I tried to do, so I embrace it, to a certain extent." Years later, Daddario reflected on this era in her career and wondered if her choice of projects had maybe led her astray. By the time the COVID-19 pandemic hit, Daddario started to feel like her career had hit a wall and found herself dissatisfied with the projects she was offered, which included several direct-to-video on-demand releases such as Can You Keep a Secret and We Summon the Darkness in 2019. All told, it wasn't until 2020 that she captured the attention of film critics once again. Lost Girls and Love Hotels features Daddario in a starring role as Margaret, an American teacher living in Tokyo who enters into a romance with a member of the Yakuza. The role features Daddario acting nude for the first time since her infamous True Detective scene. The movie itself received mixed reviews, with some criticizing its meaningless story and others praising its dark tone. However, some reviewers praised Daddario's performance, with Filmhounds writing, "She quite possibly delivers her best performance to date. It's solely because of her that the movie just about succeeds." Other reviews praised Daddario's compelling and thoughtful contributions to the character of Margaret, even when they had few good things to say about the rest of the film. Although Lost Girls and Love Hotels was still taking advantage of Daddario's looks and willingness to bear it all for the plot, it signaled the beginning of a change she hadn't experienced since True Detective, where this time around the attention was more on her acting than her anatomy. While Daddario felt like her career was stagnating post-Baywatch, the entire entertainment industry went on pause when the COVID-19 pandemic shut down productions across the globe. Like many other celebrities, Daddario took this opportunity to reach out to her audience and began posting vlogs on YouTube featuring herself, her roommates, and their various quarantine activities. Although there was still media attention surrounding Daddario's body based on some of these videos, Daddario certainly seemed in on the joke, with several instances of her openly mocking people's obsession with her looks. In one video going through her wardrobe, Daddario jokingly referenced her True Detective past.
I see what you're Googling.
After many years of trying to recapture the success she found on True Detective in the film world, Daddario found herself joining another anthology series on HBO in 2021 with The White Lotus, which centers on the various employees and guests of a fictional resort and their intertwining narratives. In the Season 1 ensemble, Daddario plays Rachel, a newlywed on her honeymoon who starts to second-guess whether marrying Jake Lacey's character, an unfathomable jerk, was a good idea.
Maybe I should call my mother?
Do you want to call your mother? What do you think she'll say?
I think she's gonna say we're in the wrong room.
The first season premiered to critical acclaim and garnered a whole bunch of Emmy nominations, with Daddario netting one for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Limited Series or Anthology, which she lost to co-star Jennifer Coolidge. As a whole, fans responded positively to Daddario's performance as Rachel, who we can safely say is more nuanced and relatable than her character in True Detective. As Daddario told The Hollywood Reporter, the role came at a point in her career where she felt like she was lacking direction, and drew upon that in her performance, saying, "Like my character, there have definitely been times I felt misunderstood or not breaking through, and I feel like I took it all somewhat in stride." With critical approval and an Emmy nomination behind her, Daddario's future was entirely up to her now. Although Alexandra Daddario has spoken positively about her experience acting in the nude on True Detective, in the past few years, there's been a reckoning of how scenes like that are handled in Hollywood. After the discourse that surrounded her and fellow co-stars' nude scenes on the HBO show, it makes sense that Daddario would be in support of an entertainment industry that treated women with more respect. She suggested as much when it comes to intimacy coordinators, who were officially recognized in the renegotiated contracts of SAG-AFTRA following the 2023 strikes. Intimacy coordinators are defined as individuals on set who choreograph and monitor nude or sex scenes to make sure actors are comfortable and safe. As Daddario admitted to InStyle, she's all for the changes, saying, "I think it was such a long time coming that these things had to happen. And even if some people feel like it's sort of an overcorrection, I think it's much better than not doing anything about it." The past few years have seen Alexandra Daddario transform from an oft-forgotten actress who once undressed for HBO to one of the most promising and talented television stars in the current media landscape. While her success will always be partially owed to the attention she got from True Detective, it's clear that Daddario is much prouder to be recognized for her hard work and commitment to projects, and not simply how she looks with no clothes on. This is all on display in Daddario's most recent television venture, starring in AMC's adaptation of Anne Rice's Mayfair Witches. Playing the role of Dr. Rowan Fielding, a woman who discovers her connection to a dynasty of witches, was one of the biggest challenges Daddario has ever faced. She told the AV Club, "I had never been the lead of my own TV show, which felt cool. I'm looking for anything instinctually right at the moment, and this did it for me." Considering her experience adapting books to screen with the Percy Jackson films, her innate ability to capture the audience's attention in True Detective, and her skills at connecting with audiences thanks to The White Lotus, Mayfair Witches seems like the perfect amalgamation of all she's worked towards. The question now is, why did it have to take so long? Mayim Bialik said her years on The Big Bang Theory were grief-heavy and complicated, and her life has been just as complicated since the show ended. From backlash over her comments about vaccines to hosting Jeopardy and a podcast, Bialik's life has gone through some big changes. After achieving early success in her career as the lead character on Blossom, Mayim Bialik did something unexpected. She left the entertainment industry to pursue a doctorate in neuroscience. She ultimately received her PhD in 2007. However, after spending 12 years away from acting, Bialik decided to return because she was running out of health insurance. She told CTV, "I had a toddler and a newborn, and I had been a grad student, and my insurance was expiring. This is the true story, and I figured if I can just get even a couple jobs here or there, I'll be able to get insurance again." So, Bialik auditioned for The Big Bang Theory with the sole goal of acquiring health insurance through SAG-AFTRA.
I had never seen it. I don't watch TV, so I had never seen The Big Bang Theory.
Despite having never seen the show, Bialik's audition was successful, and she was offered the role of Sheldon's quirky love interest, Amy.
I didn't expect to be on a TV show. Like, that was not part of the plan at all.
Following Mayim Bialik's debut on The Big Bang Theory, she was brought back on a per-episode basis. After some time in this unstable work situation, Bialik began to have doubts about her longevity on the show. Much to her surprise, however, she was soon offered a regular contract. Her colleague, Jim Parsons, is largely to thank for this, as he informed showrunners that he wanted Bialik to be a regular on the show. He also said he would fight for Bialik if he had to. In Jessica Radloff's book, The Big Bang Theory, the definitive inside story of the epic hit series, Parsons said, "That was notable for me. Only in that I almost never disagreed with the writers. But at some point I felt a certain way about working with Mayim that I was like, if for whatever reason we seem to be weaning her off of this show as a character, I would go and talk to them."
I can't get you out of my heart. So what I'm trying to say is, you're my heartworm.
Upon landing this full-time gig, Bialik stepped away from teaching neuroscience, piano tutoring, and living a relatively private life as a mother. In Jessica Radloff's book, Bialik admitted that when Amy first started appearing on the show, not every viewer was on board with the idea of Sheldon entering the dating scene. Bialik said, "There was some negative attention when I joined the cast because some people held Sheldon very near and dear to them and didn't want him to change or become a cheesy boyfriend." However, as Amy grew as a character and found her first true friendship with Penny, fans started to gravitate toward her. On Reddit, one user wrote, "I think Amy had the best growth of any character on the show. I found her to be incredibly annoying in the beginning, but she grew on me because of the depth the writers gave her. Amy went from a wilting wallflower to a vibrant sunflower, and she will always be one of my favorites." Her work on screen not only resonated with audiences, but also earned Bialik her first Emmy nomination in 2012. This was followed by 3 more nominations over the next 3 consecutive years. In 2013, Mayim Bialik's personal life experienced a major upheaval when she and Michael Stone divorced after 10 years of marriage. For Bialik, the end of her marriage also brought up difficult emotions while she was filming the season 11 finale, in which Amy and Sheldon tie the knot. Amy may have been bursting with excitement, but behind the scenes, Bialik was uncomfortable.
I tried to be married once. Like, I was in that position, and I failed.
Despite these feelings, Bialik still went through with the episode. And it's possible her on-screen marriage helped Bialik move past her sense of failure, because a few years later, she began dating her current boyfriend, Jonathan Cohen. Though Mayim Bialik had no idea what she was getting into when she auditioned for the part of Amy on The Big Bang Theory, she found a home on the Warner Brothers set. So, when it came time for the show to end, she struggled to accept it. In a February 2019 Grok Nation blog post, Bialik explained how she experienced the 5 stages of grief as The Big Bang Theory approached its conclusion. At first, Bialik feared what her life would look like moving forward. She was also saddened by the fact that she'd likely lose touch with many cast and crew members after spending countless hours together. But in the end, the actor acknowledged that she couldn't change things and learned to embrace whatever the future held for her. In Radloff's book, Bialik admitted, "Life is enormous, and my life and the years on The Big Bang Theory were some of the most grief-heavy, complicated years for me personally. It was kind of like, okay, what next?" That had to be my attitude, and it still is. I would have been happy to be there until people weren't watching anymore. It didn't take long for Mayim Bialik to return to television. 2 years after The Big Bang Theory wrapped up, she began executive producing and starring in the sitcom Call Me Kat. In many ways, Kat is very similar to Amy. When audiences meet her in season 1, she's single and trying to forge her own path in life, ultimately breaking free from her mother's expectations. Call Me Kat ran for 3 years, but abruptly came to an end in May 2023 after a decline in ratings. In a sentimental Instagram post, Bialik wrote, "It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. We made a lot of people laugh during COVID in ways that at first seemed impossible. But with this incredible cast, all things that seemed impossible became possible." It's only natural that, given their status as the stars of a major television show like The Big Bang Theory, the public would be curious about the cast's personal lives. However, being in the spotlight comes with its challenges, which Mayim Bialik understands all too well. Over the years, her opinions about certain topics, especially vaccines, have received a lot of backlash. In 2009, she revealed that she hadn't vaccinated her 2 children after conducting research and having discussions with their pediatrician. More recently, Bialik said her kids are now vaccinated, but don't have as many as the average American child. Her commentary on other matters also landed her in hot water. These included her remarks that powerful, ill-intentioned men like Harvey Weinstein overlooked her because her appearance didn't represent the standard for beauty in Hollywood. Bialik later issued an apology for the comment, claiming she never meant to make Weinstein's victims feel as if they brought his actions on themselves due to their looks. The actor wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter, "You were never responsible for being assaulted. I'm truly sorry for causing so much pain, and I hope you can all forgive me." As The Big Bang Theory came to an end, Mayim Bialik feared she'd lose touch with her on-set friends and colleagues. However, Bialik has managed to stay connected with her former co-stars. For example, Jim Parsons was the reason she landed the lead role on Call Me Kat. On The Ellen DeGeneres Show, Bialik revealed that Parsons informed her that his production company was adapting Miranda, the British show Call Me Kat is based on, for American television. At first, Bialik thought he was simply informing her about his latest endeavor. She told Ellen, "I said, well, Jim, that seems like a really awesome project. Good luck, you've got my vote of confidence." And he said, "No, I'm asking because I want you to be in it." I was shocked because I think I'm very annoying. But however annoying I am, he obviously still wanted to work with me.
Get to produce with him and get to know his whole team. It's been really, really special.
On The Big Bang Theory, Amy is the one trying to push her physical relationship with Sheldon along. However, she has no experience when it comes to intimacy. Since she's been sheltered by her mother, Amy is a late bloomer when it comes to these things. On her Grok Nation blog, Bialik would often discuss the topics Amy was experiencing on the show, including notions of modesty, boundaries, and more. And over time, her writing caught the eye of the publisher Penguin Books. Bialik was asked to write more about the female experience as a whole, and penned Girling Up: How to Be Strong, Smart, and Spectacular. The book, released in 2019, boasts a 4.5 rating on Amazon and has been a hit with readers. One Amazon reviewer wrote, "This book is perfect for you and your daughter, or any female who may need some guidance," which we all do. She does such a good job putting it all into a non-judgmental perspective. Another reviewer wrote, "The author is a mother, but her voice in the book is more of a mentor who wants the very best for the reader." However, they do warn that some of the content might be too mature for preteens. Following the death of longtime Jeopardy host Alex Trebek, Bialik and legendary contestant Ken Jennings began alternating as the show's hosts. It was a new environment for Bialik, and audiences certainly took notice. Ever since accepting the Jeopardy gig, Bialik received a lot of negative feedback from viewers, with the main point of criticism being how she moves the game along. One Jeopardy fan wrote on Reddit, "It's her rhythm. It gets in the way of the game." As it's been said by a few people, Ken knows the answer. Mayim needs to check whether the answer is right or not. But it's not just the answers. The way she conducts the game is just halting in a way that Ken is smooth. Another Reddit user said their biggest pet peeve is the long pause Bialik takes before telling a contestant.
That is correct.
Meanwhile, another Reddit user feels Bialik is better suited towards special editions of the show, such as Celebrity Jeopardy. In the midst of her ongoing television career, Mayim Bialik hosts the podcast Mayim Bialik's Breakdown. On the podcast, Bialik discusses various topics surrounding mental health with an array of guests, including her old Big Bang Theory co-stars Melissa Rauch and Simon Helberg. In each conversation, both serious and hilarious aspects of their lives are revealed. Helberg is candid about his mental health struggles, while Rauch, a massive Blossom fan, recalls trying to be cool the first time she was in Bialik's presence. Every episode is co-hosted by Bialik's boyfriend, Jonathan Cohen, who helped her launch the podcast in the throes of the pandemic. Bialik told Forbes, "My partner Jonathan and I have a shared passion for mental illness and mental illness education, so we decided to start a podcast. The idea is to explore all the aspects of mental health that many of us are not told about." Bialik may have been anxious about what life would look like after the Big Bang Theory, but so far, things are going pretty well. She's acting and directing, all while shining a light on how mental health battles don't discriminate.
Though he rose to fame relatively late in his career, Pedro Pascal is no worse for wear. Since his big break on Game of Thrones, the Chilean-born actor has remained as respected and dynamic as the Dornish prince he played. When it came to landing his role as Oberyn Martell on Game of Thrones, Pedro Pascal must have gotten in on pure charisma, because the audition tape he turned in was apparently of poor quality, a testament to how perfectly suited the actor was for the role. Pascal shoddily filmed his Game of Thrones audition on an iPhone in selfie mode. That idea doesn't carry much meaning these days, with phone cameras being high enough quality that even esteemed filmmakers like Steven Soderbergh have shot entire films on smartphones. At the time, however, this was considered a bit of a faux pas for such a major show. Speaking with Variety, showrunners D.B. Weiss and David Benioff called the tape amateurish. However, they ultimately realized that the quality of a tape doesn't matter if the performance is great. And when it came to the Viper, Pascal still stood out as the right man for the job.
In 2014, after gaining some fame for playing Oberyn Martell, Pedro Pascal did a Reddit AMA where fans learned quite a few things about the Chilean actor.
For example, Pascal is an avid reader, which he revealed when one Redditor asked him for his favorite book. But despite loving literature, it wasn't until he was cast in Game of Thrones that Pascal cracked open A Song of Ice and Fire. Specifically, he started with A Storm of Swords, the third book in the series. The reason he skips to this installment is because the second half of that specific book serves as the basis for Season 4 of Game of Thrones, in which Pascal played Oberyn. The actor said that he picked up that entry and read the sections directly involving his character to get a sense of Martin's language and world.
I did. This is why I know.
Pascal's dedication to getting the part right was clear throughout his performance, and it became his breakthrough role. Although he expressed an intention to get through the books for real, the guy has been pretty busy ever since, so who's to say if he's actually caught up on all that reading material? All things considered, Pascal got a pretty sweet deal when it came to his experience on Game of Thrones. He was admittedly a huge fan of the show before landing the role, and he remained one after leaving. It might be setting the bar low to say that's the best you can ask for on a massive production, but according to Pascal himself, he really did have a great time. For starters, all of Oberyn's scenes were filmed on location in Croatia during the production of the show's 4th season.
Pascal found this area of the country beautiful and said in his Reddit AMA that the city of Dubrovnik has since become one of his favorite places in the world.
As the actor told GQ, "I might have been the luckiest human to have passed through that show. It was this great role at the height of the show's popularity, a perfectly written season, a perfectly written role. Go in, shoot for 10 weeks, leave. Nobody got a chance to be sick of me." Though many storylines on Game of Thrones take place in inhospitable climates, Pascal got a pretty cushy assignment. While his co-stars were filming in the snow or overnight, he was basking in the sun, usually sitting comfortably in the company of attractive co-stars.
Take off your clothes.
Prior to his acting career taking off, Pedro Pascal was born in Chile, but spent most of his life in the United States. It wasn't until Game of Thrones and the other on-location blockbuster shoots it led him to that he began to travel to more locations outside of the United States. By 2017, his production schedule required him to trot all over the globe for major movie and television productions. As he told ET Online in 2017, "My life changed. I've been getting to see the world." In the interview, Pascal went on to elaborate that no matter where he went at the time, he was always getting recognized, either from Game of Thrones or Narcos. He relayed one particularly strange encounter when he was traveling, and a fan tried to snap a picture of him while he was snorkeling. He recalled, "I was snorkeling, and this person kept on looking at me. I remember I got really nervous because I thought there was a shark or something." Even when underwater, the star couldn't escape his newfound fame.
Oberyn Martell is a feisty fellow with a good deal of leisure time, so it's only natural that he's in pretty good shape.
Not only that, but the prince knows how to fight. However, Pascal hadn't quite mastered the art of combat when he was cast in the role.
In his 2014 Reddit AMA, Pedro Pascal was asked what kind of training he had to do to stay in shape for his Game of Thrones role.
His answer was more interesting than you might expect. Pascal was trained before he even got to Croatia to start filming. First, the actor went to Los Angeles to train in the acrobatic martial art of Wushu, a Chinese martial art that includes the use of weapons and bare-handed attacks. He was then assigned a master to guide his training. As Pascal recalled, "He sort of basically showed me the basics and taught me how to fight with a spear and twist my body around and move in ways I never thought possible." Clearly, all that practice paid off, as Oberyn's battle against the Mountain stands as one of the highlights of the entire show. Pascal was on Game of Thrones for less than a season before his character was killed off. However, the specific way he was killed was so memorable that it led audiences to appreciate the character even more posthumously. Sure, he was beloved for his pansexual libido and overall charm, but his gruesome death was a shocking reminder that pure-hearted, heroic characters don't stick around long in Westeros.
Oberyn dies in Season 4, Episode 8 at the hands of Gregor Clegane, also known as the Mountain.
In the aptly titled The Mountain and the Viper, the two face off in a trial by combat to determine the fate of Tyrion Lannister.
Have they told you who I am?
Some dead man.
Though Oberyn has the upper hand for a time, Clegane ultimately wins. He kills Oberyn in the most brutal fashion by jamming his thumbs through the cocky prince's eyes. Oberyn screams his final scream until his skull caves in. It's a violent sight to behold, and one of the most shocking moments in Game of Thrones. And that's saying something. Well, his Game of Thrones death might just be the single most important scene in Pascal's career. He claims that he wasn't even awake for the entirety of it. During an appearance on Hot Ones, Pascal spilled the beans on his dirty Game of Thrones secret, admitting he got sleepy while filming Oberyn's death. He explained that to get the desired effect for his death, cool blood was being pumped onto his face, and small artificial pieces of flesh were being placed on and around him. Laying in the hot sun, Pascal actually fell asleep while production went on. The combination of a terribly hot day and finally wrapping up the exhausting 4-day shoot for the mountain fight was too much for Pascal to resist. He fondly described the experience of filming his gruesome death as the best part of the day and said it was some of the best sleep he's ever gotten. These days, Pedro Pascal has a certified fan base spread across all things pop culture. The actor has a good sense of humor about the whole thing. But going back to his first fan interactions, it's clear that a lot has changed over the years. Pascal recalled during a 2023 Hollywood Reporter roundtable that after playing Oberyn on Game of Thrones, he began to get recognized in public. This was the first time the Chilean actor had been recognized widely for a role in his entire career. As a 40-year-old having a brush with true stardom for the first time, Pascal naturally embraced the love. At the start of his rise to fame, Pascal was famously liberal about posing with fans, and even said that he enjoyed it for a time. Soon though, he found a serious reason to be cautious with how he engages with the public. Pedro Pascal ultimately had to stop letting fans be so personal when posing with him after he sustained a health problem. During his Hollywood Reporter roundtable, the actor shared that after his role as Oberyn, many fans wanted to recreate the character's iconic death by sticking their thumbs into his eye sockets for pictures.
And I would let them in New York.
There's plenty of photographic evidence of this era. Though Pascal said he was thrilled by the enthusiasm, he eventually felt the side effects. No violence was done to Pascal, but when enough strangers start sticking their fingers in your eyes, something bad is bound to happen. According to Pascal, he eventually developed an eye infection as a result of the frequent interactions. He learned the hard way that especially in the streets of New York City, not everyone washes their hands. And even when they do, germs can be near impossible to avoid. That's probably just one of many reasons that high-profile actors try to avoid interactions with their most hardcore fans. Pedro Pascal and his The Last of Us co-star, Bella Ramsey, both appeared on Game of Thrones before starring together in the post-apocalyptic HBO drama. However, the two never shared any scenes in Game of Thrones because their characters showed up 2 seasons apart. Despite this separation, they still bonded over the shared experience of being on another one of HBO's biggest productions. He told Entertainment Weekly, "I feel like it made us come from a family without knowing each other already." Even though they never appeared together, Pascal and Ramsey's shared experience on the series made it easier for the stars to bond. Even before they built chemistry on set, they had a connection, and Pascal told August Man that he and Ramsey made each other laugh frequently throughout the shoot. Pascal has also commented that he was probably more comfortable in his costume on Game of Thrones than Ramsey was. After all, Oberyn's wardrobe was light and sleek to fit both his royal character and the climate of Dorne. However, Ramsey's character, Lyanna Mormont, was much more armored and bundled up due to filming scenes set in the north. After Game of Thrones, the next major TV role Pedro Pascal picked up was the part of Drug Enforcement Administration agent Javier Peña in Netflix's historical crime drama, Narcos. The series primarily focuses on the drug empire of Pablo Escobar and how it was investigated and eventually taken down by Pascal's character. From the start of the show in 2015, Pascal was one of the most important characters in the story, but for the 3rd season, things needed to shift to make him the star of the show. Luckily, the actor was already well on his ascent to stardom. At the end of Narcos Season 2, Escobar gets shot and dies while attempting to escape law enforcement, ending Wagner Moura's heavily praised performance as the drug lord. In its final season, before pivoting to the spin-off, Narcos Mexico, the series made Peña its central character to fill the hole left by Moura. Pascal was more than capable of shouldering this weight, and he earned immense praise for his performance in Season 3. Plenty of actors grow up dreaming of being on the big screen, and some just need to wait a little longer for their big break to finally arrive. While we imagine that Pedro Pascal is pretty thankful for his extensive TV career, he has admitted that his dream always included being in big-budget action movies. In a 2017 interview with ET Online, the actor said, "I realized that the fantasy is actually just like being in a trailer, synced into a moment perfectly scored to some cool music." This was indeed a fantasy he got to live out. At the time of the interview, he had already filmed his part in Kingsman: The Golden Circle, the sequel to Matthew Vaughn's 2014 spy jinx-filled action movie. After a career of primarily TV roles, The Golden Circle was his first opportunity to be in a big-budget action film. Pascal's only regret was doing this work at an older age than many, because according to the charismatic actor himself, the body really starts to feel stunts at a certain age. Of course, in 2020, Pascal went on to star in Wonder Woman 1984, adding another big-budget action-adventure movie to his long list of credits. And while The Mandalorian is technically TV, we can't deny that the Disney Plus show probably scratches the same itch for Pascal.
This is the way. Bella Ramsey came out of nowhere to slay a giant and leave a lasting impression on everyone they've ever worked with. No doubt about it, their life changed forever after appearing in the biggest show on the planet. Bella Ramsey was born on September 25, 2003 in Nottingham, England, where they fell in love with acting when they were just 3 years old and joined their older sister to perform for their family. After acting in some local stage productions, Ramsey was accepted into the television workshop, which has been a stepping stone for several working British actors. They were just 10 years old at the time. Less than a year later, Ramsey auditioned for the role of Lady Lyanna Mormont on Game of Thrones. They ended up booking the gig, and thus their first professional on-screen role was pretty much on the biggest TV show in the world. In 2019, Ramsey spoke with The Guardian about their time shooting Season 6 and revealed, "The first day we filmed on horses just before the Battle of the Bastards. That was amazing. A member of the crew pointed at the grass and said, 'You know someone got employed to place those tufts of grass in very specific places?'" When Bella Ramsey auditioned for Game of Thrones, they really impressed showrunners D.B. Weiss and David Benioff, as well as Mark Mylod, who directed their debut episode The Broken Man. As Mylod told The Hollywood Reporter, "She walked in for the casting reading and we were knocked completely sideways. It was one of those moments where you go, oh my god, what a star. You could not wish to meet a more delightful young lady." Ramsey was only 11 when they filmed their initial scenes. Pretty much all of their co-workers were shocked at how competent they were right from the get-go. Co-workers were prepared for a long day to help a young actor learn how to get through a complex production, but Ramsey only needed a half-hour of rehearsal before shooting began. As Mylod also admitted, of course the rest of us felt deeply ashamed because she knew every single word and every single inflection. The level of talent there is so ridiculous. She's someone we're going to look back on in 20 years and she's going to be ruling Hollywood. She's just amazing.
We will not break faith today.
Lyanna Mormont was originally only supposed to appear in one episode of Season 6 of Game of Thrones. But Bella Ramsey ended up impressing the showrunners so much that they expanded their role through the rest of the series' run. D.B. Weiss spoke about working with the young actor during the Inside the Episode special following Season 8's The Long Night.
And then we met Bella Ramsey and we realized that we would not be doing our jobs if we kept her as a one-scene character.
Simply put, if not for Weiss and Benioff's keen instincts about Ramsey's talent, Game of Thrones would have missed out on countless memorable moments from Lady Lyanna. Game of Thrones employed plenty of child actors during its 8-season run, though of course it isn't exactly a kids' show. When Bella Ramsey started playing Lyanna Mormont, they were easily the youngest person on set and continued to be for most of their time on the show. There were some other children in the background in seasons 7 and 8, but Ramsey was carrying a more significant workload with the number of scenes they appeared in and amount of dialogue they had to remember. Ramsey's time on Game of Thrones ultimately helped them realize that they were much more comfortable around older people, and that working with adults was easier than working with kids. As they told The Guardian in 2023, "I'm neurodivergent, and that's part of why I feel more understood by adults. It didn't faze me at all. Being around kids my own age would have been so much harder." Ramsey is no longer a teenager, but they still have a strong sense of camaraderie with many of their older collaborators. That includes Craig Mazin, the showrunner of The Last of Us, as the two of them kept each other anchored through the dark moments of a very serious show. Because Game of Thrones had such a sprawling plot, certain prominent members of the cast never shared any screen time with each other. Many of the characters ended up converging in the final 2 seasons, although that wasn't the case for everyone. As Lyanna, Bella Ramsey generally found themselves in the north of Westeros, so they naturally appeared with other people who spent much of their time in the north. This included Liam Cunningham as Sir Davos and Kit Harington as Jon Snow. In a 2020 interview with Metro, Ramsey explained that these two co-stars made sure to guide them during their time on the show. As they put it, "I learned a lot from them about interviews and how to go about them and to just be yourself. They were obviously aware that I was going to have to be doing some, so they helped me by preparing me for it." And in turn, Harington and Cunningham have only ever had wonderful things to say about Ramsey. As Cunningham told The Hollywood Reporter in 2016, "There's an old adage about how actors should never work with children or animals, but that's BS. When kids are as good as this young lady is, it's a joy to play opposite. She was absolutely amazing." Bella Ramsey was basically the breakout star of Game of Thrones Season 6, as their debut episode aired at the height of the show's popularity. With his newfound fame, they went from being an everyday kid with a passion for the arts to an international sensation pretty much overnight. Beforehand, Ramsey had to keep their part on the show a secret from everyone except their immediate family and their best friend. As time went on and Lady Lyanna continued to make an impression throughout the last 3 seasons, Ramsey got recognized more and more. They were even often called Milady by strangers on the street. As Ramsey admitted to The Guardian in 2019, it was madness.
Do you get asked about Game of Thrones all the time now?
I do.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming for the young Ramsey. Clearly, they were making a positive impression, though, as they were adored far and wide within the fan base. Bella Ramsey has never been interested in acting just for the sake of being a celebrity. Instead, they love inhabiting complex characters and learning more about themselves and others through artistic expression. As Ramsey insisted to the Nottingham Post in 2019, "I never wanted to act to be famous." Ramsey has leaned into the trappings of a high-profile acting career, but only out of necessity. As they explained, people were setting up fake accounts on social media pretending to be me. One of them had swearing in the bio, and people were saying, "You shouldn't be swearing," but it wasn't me. That's why I had to set up official Twitter and Instagram accounts. Ramsey appreciates fans who are respectful and the positive attention that they receive, but it can be frustrating at times when they want to support their loved ones in their own moments. Ever since being cast as Ellie in The Last of Us, Ramsey has experienced an increased volume in negative attention. It has mostly come from fans of the video game that the show is based on, as they don't look exactly like the original animated Ellie. This has especially frustrated Last of Us creator Craig Mazin, who's gone on record about how protective he feels of Ramsey. While Bella Ramsey probably wouldn't describe themselves as especially outgoing or assertive in their own life, they definitely felt strong and fierce while playing Lyanna Mormont. As they revealed to The Cut in 2019, "I like how strong she is, mentally, physically, personality-wise. I like how she sticks up for what she believes in, no matter the cost or the consequences. I really admire her confidence, how she can just stand up without flinching in front of all those people." Ramsey loves acting because it offers them the opportunity to explore characters unlike themselves. A project's prestige, or lack thereof, doesn't matter to them when choosing which gigs to pursue. As they told the Nottingham Post, "I just enjoy any roles that are interesting, playing multi-layered characters." Playing Lyanna helped Ramsey build their own confidence both as an actor and as a young adult, and they weren't disappointed with their character's grisly death. As they admitted to Entertainment Weekly, "I wanted to either end up in the Iron Throne or have a really good death, so I'm happy." The small but mighty Lyanna slayed a giant with a warrior's cry right before succumbing to her injuries, so it makes sense that Ramsey was satisfied with such a brave ending.
"You die." I was like, "What?" But I was happy.
What a weird life, right?
I know, right?
It's clear that Bella Ramsey's talent stands on its own. Just ask anyone who's ever worked with them and they'll pretty much invariably sing their praises. Ramsey's time on Game of Thrones unquestionably helped them get a lot of visibility that might have taken a bit longer if they hadn't been on the most popular show on the planet. And so, when Craig Mazin was reviewing audition tapes for the part of Ellie in The Last of Us, he couldn't help but recognize Ramsey. As he admitted to Elle in 2023, "I was like, oh it's Lady Mormont." Mazin was able to set aside his fanboy excitement to fairly assess the quality of Bella's audition, and ultimately realizing that they were the right one to play Ellie was just a confirmation of the talent that he'd already seen from watching Game of Thrones.
When we saw Bella's audition, it was, that's it, we're done, we got it. She's Ellie.
Bella Ramsey struggled to make friends throughout their childhood, and the fame that came with their acting career only made that even more difficult. Ultimately, they were just never really happy at school. As they explained to The Standard in 2019, "Everyone was put in a box. There was no room for personalization." Ramsey just couldn't be comfortable in an environment that was beholden to certain social and academic norms that didn't necessarily work for everyone. So they tried homeschooling for a while, but when that didn't work for them either, they enrolled in Inter High, which is essentially a high school that takes place entirely online. Inter High allowed Ramsey to keep a flexible schedule to accommodate their acting career without sacrificing their education. They were also able to bond with their Inter High classmates, which helped them avoid missing out on the important social aspects of school. Now that Ramsey's done with the British equivalent of K-12 schooling, they have a much easier time connecting with their peers. And ultimately, they look back on their decision to stop attending a traditional school as the right one.
Negan was a polarizing character who entered The Walking Dead like a wrecking ball. After 5 seasons playing him, it's safe to say it turned Jeffrey Dean Morgan's life upside down. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was a fan of the Walking Dead series and the comic books before he was even cast on the AMC hit. So when he was offered the role of Negan, it was like a dream come true. Morgan told Interview magazine in 2016, "I'd watched the show for years. It was one of the few shows I would DVR and pay attention to." Morgan always felt his resemblance to Negan through his love of the Walking Dead comic series. He told Interview magazine that fans started approaching him at Comic-Con and told him that he would be amazing as a fan-fave character. When Morgan's agent told him about the possibility of playing a mystery villain on The Walking Dead, he knew exactly what the role was.
Know what I'm thinking? 'Cause I have a guess.
He told Interview magazine, "It's f***ing Negan, and I'm gonna f***ing do it." Morgan was determined to be on the show. The actor was working on The Good Wife when he was cast on The Walking Dead, but did his best to find a couple of days in his schedule to film the season 6 finale. AMC tried to be careful about spoilers, so Morgan only received his portion of the script before they shot the episode. He told Variety, "It was a little bit tense. For me, it all happened very fast. I think I got the script 2 days before I shot it." Jeffrey Dean Morgan has been in his fair share of movies and TV series. Some likely know him as Denny in Grey's Anatomy or Ike Evans in Magic City. And some first noticed Morgan in Supernatural when he played Sam and Dean's father, John Winchester. But Morgan's turn as a comedian in Watchmen proved he had the chops to play a villain. Despite having success as an actor, Morgan joining the cast of The Walking Dead in Season 7 would begin his longest consistent run on a television series. At New York Comic Con in 2022, Morgan revealed the original plan for Negan was only 3 seasons long, resembling the character's original story arc in the comic. He revealed, "Originally it was gonna be 3 years. I had a conversation with Scott Gimple, and it was like, you gotta be on it for at least 3 years if you want to be a part of the show." I was like, that seems like a long time. And Negan's role in the series developed well beyond the comics. Morgan stayed on until the series finale. Far from an industry newcomer, Jeffrey Dean Morgan still wasn't prepared to star in a series as high-profile as The Walking Dead. Morgan told the New York Times in 2022, "I was a big fan of the show, and I knew it was going to attract a bit of attention, but I had no idea of the levels of crazy that it was going to be." When asked in 2016 how the series had changed his life, Morgan jokingly admitted to AOL that he needed security. He also described some strange interactions with fans who have followed him home, and how he's been the recipient of odd letters and packages.
You know, I need to look in my rearview mirror when I go home at night from work, because people will follow me home. I get weird mail.
Despite having been on popular shows like Grey's Anatomy, the intensified attention was a big change. Morgan told ABC News in 2017, "I'm a very private dude. I live in the middle of nowhere, so it's been an adjustment." He also told AOL, "Everyone told me when I showed up on the set for this show that my life was gonna change. And I thought, well, that's bullshit." But Morgan later realized that the role was far different than anything he'd done before. He told Men's Journal in 2021 that being on the series and the success of his wife Hilarie Burton's best-selling memoir, Rural Diaries, helped him realize there wasn't a lot he could hide anymore. He explained how freeing it was, calling it, quote, "a weight off my shoulders." Jeffrey Dean Morgan's contentious entrance into The Walking Dead didn't necessarily make him popular with longtime fans. Some fans even stopped watching the show after the Season 7 premiere, when Negan killed fan-favorite character Glenn, played by Stephen Yeun. Morgan told Insider in 2023, "That one scene changed my life, literally in so many ways, and I still get for it." He added that fans still remind him that Glenn was their favorite character. So much so that Morgan told Insider in 2022 that if he could change one thing about Negan, he revealed, "I wouldn't have killed Glenn."
What? Was the joke that bad?
Being such a memorable character made Morgan's face pretty recognizable, and hanging out with other stars from the ultra-popular series only compounded his notoriety. Morgan recalled an experience with co-star Norman Reedus while they were riding motorcycles together. He told Interview magazine, "Within 3 minutes of us stopping to get gas, a couple of phone calls that people make and there's 100 people blocking us and we can't get out." Morgan told AOL that Reedus is especially generous with fans and that he has learned a lot about being gracious from his co-star. When Jeffrey Dean Morgan first landed the role of Negan, Walking Dead co-creator Robert Kirkman was still working on the character's backstory. Morgan told Variety after his debut in the Season 6 finale, "Hopefully we'll find out more about Negan as we go. I think his backstory is going to be pretty fascinating." That backstory was finally explored when Morgan's real-life wife, Hilarie Burton, joined the cast for one episode of The Walking Dead in Season 10 to play Negan's deceased wife, Lucille. Morgan and Burton met through their friends Jensen and Danielle Ackles in 2009. After welcoming 2 children, the couple tied the knot in 2019. Although the 2 actors worked on the same series, Extant, in 2015, they didn't share any scenes. So working together as Negan and Lucille was their first time acting together face-to-face. Burton gushed about working with her husband on The Walking Dead in an Instagram post, saying, "When I tell you it has been a joy, I'm saying it with tears in my eyes." Morgan also posted to Instagram, saying working with his wife was a highlight of his career. AMC's The Walking Dead wasn't afraid to put complex characters on screen. Initially, Jeffrey Dean Morgan had reservations about playing a vengeful character like Negan. He told Men's Journal in 2021, "I was worried that Negan was very two-dimensional. I felt like every scene was an iteration of him coming out of that Winnebago." But Morgan admitted that he saw Negan as more of a survivor. He told Variety in 2016, "I don't think of him necessarily as a villain." Morgan had to dig deep for the character's redeemable qualities, but acknowledged that some fans believe Negan is psychotic. The actor has another way of seeing his character, telling Variety, "I never looked at him like that. I think there's a lot of similarities between him and Rick." Throughout The Walking Dead's run, Negan eventually went on a redemption arc. Morgan told Men's Journal, "Negan has become such an important part of my life. It'd be hard to make a clean cut and walk away. Unless they just want to kill me, just a knife in the back. And maybe that's what needs to be done for me to walk away from this guy." Actors can never get too comfortable as a cast member on an apocalyptic zombie show. Jeffrey Dean Morgan understood that all too well, as he knew he could be killed off The Walking Dead at any moment. Speaking about when he first went to Georgia to film, Morgan told the New York Times that he had a conversation with showrunner Angela Kang and said, "I had a 3-year deal initially. I remember asking Angela, should I buy a house? And she was like, eh. And I was like, well, that's it, I'm dead." Morgan never got around to buying a home in Georgia. His wife Hillary Burton told Interview magazine in 2021 that to keep the cast safe from filming her guest episode during the COVID pandemic, production had the cast quarantined in Alexandria, the neighborhood where the AMC show was being filmed. Burton added, "We lived in Rick Grimes' house. There were bullet holes in my child's closet door." Burton told Interview magazine that living on set during COVID was a bizarre experience, saying, "We were living in a real apocalypse in the real world, living in a rented house in a fake apocalypse, and filming the beginning of a pandemic." Despite filming The Walking Dead in Georgia, Morgan has remained committed to his children, going to a normal school, and living a life not regulated on a TV set. He and his wife own Mischief Farm in Hudson Valley, New York, where the family normally lives. If Jeffrey Dean Morgan hadn't already felt like the cast of The Walking Dead were family, weathering COVID together cemented the bond the cast and crew already shared. Season 11 was shot digitally instead of using film, and the production hired an Army medic and infectious disease specialist as a safety precaution, according to Insider. Morgan told Deadline that during COVID, the cast and crew were the only people who could spend time together without extra safety precautions. He explained, "We really leaned on each other. It was hard on us too, and thank God we had each other." In an interview with GeoJournal, Morgan said that the show had a familial atmosphere, sharing that co-star Norman Reedus is known to his children as Uncle Norman. After The Walking Dead wrapped, Morgan was emotional about watching the series finale. He told Deadline, "It's weird. I haven't been able to watch the finale because there is a finality to it that I don't think I'm ready to deal with yet." Morgan admitted he hadn't actually watched the last 4 episodes of the series. He said, "I just haven't wanted to watch them. I think I just needed to be in a mood." Morgan admitted to Deadline that despite being very excited about getting to continue playing Negan in a spin-off series, he still misses the unique situation of the original show, saying, "I miss the show. I miss that crew. And when I say crew, I mean the cast and the actual crew." The Walking Dead spin-off Dead City picks up a couple of years after the events of the Walking Dead finale. It follows Maggie, played by Lauren Cohan, and Negan as they journey to Manhattan. Morgan told the New York Times, "When I found out the show was ending, I was like, okay, I did my bit. I'm proud of the work I did." But AMC floated the idea of a spin-off to him, and Morgan was all ears. Considering the actor's attachment to Negan, it isn't an enormous surprise that he jumped at the chance to reprise the role. Before the show's premiere, Morgan told GeoJournal that the shooting location was a motivating factor in his decision, saying, "The fact that I get to be home played a big part in making this decision really easy for me." Morgan admitted he couldn't wait to see the zombie apocalypse in New York City. The actor told Entertainment Weekly that he contemplated walking away when the original Walking Dead ended, but decided to return due to the story being good and worth telling.
Why I want to help you?
Because you owe me.
I owe you, right?
What happens when a mega popular TV show gets not just one but several spin-offs? Criticism, of course. Some fans of The Walking Dead were upset when announcements of the upcoming spin-off series spoiled who would survive the last season. Morgan joined the chorus himself, speaking out about how AMC announced Dead City and other series in the Walking Dead franchise. Morgan told Entertainment Weekly, "That's not the way we should have gone about it. I would have tried to go about it in a different way, but look, that's above my pay grade." The actor told Deadline that he got in a bit of trouble for being so vocal about AMC's error, but he stood by his statement. He said, "If you had watched the scene in the last episode of that lineup, imagine how much better that scene would have been if you thought Negan was going to die." Even with the criticism, Morgan holds the show close to his heart. He told Insider, "The journey that I went on with my kids and my wife was an amazing journey. To be enveloped by these people and the world because of this show is something that will never be duplicated, ever."
Jon Bernthal stole the show as Shane Walsh on The Walking Dead. Even though his time on the series was limited, it had serious ramifications for the rest of his life and career. Rick and Shane were the first roles to be cast for The Walking Dead, and when Jon Bernthal went into his audition, he initially read for Rick's part. Bernthal said that despite reading for Rick, from very early in the casting process, he wanted the role of Shane. Showrunner Frank Darabont warned Bernthal that The Walking Dead comics killed Shane off early in their run. That wasn't a big concern for Bernthal, who told Entertainment Weekly, "I know it sounds cheesy, but I want to serve the story. And I always said Shane's got to go, and if that really services the story, then by all means, I'm down for that." He was excited when Andrew Lincoln was cast as Rick. The two became best friends, and they still have a close relationship to this day. When it was time for Bernthal to leave the show, he said, "It's been the honor of my acting career to act alongside Andrew Lincoln. Luckily, it wasn't the last time the two got to be on screen with each other." In the early days of The Walking Dead, few people thought the show would become a record-breaking success. AMC picked up the first season for only 6 episodes, a sure sign that the network didn't have full confidence in the series. The ratings in 2010 proved that the zombie apocalypse was a hit with viewers, but the show didn't become the phenomenon it is today until season 3, when its ratings doubled. When Jon Bernthal worked on The Walking Dead, the series functioned much more like a low-budget passion project. Speaking about his time on the show with comicbook.com, Bernthal said, "When we did Walking Dead, there were no trailers, there were no craft services. We would just hike out into the woods. It was very humble." Helping to create The Walking Dead taught Bernthal that with enough hard work and dedication, a creative team really can take a far-fetched idea and turn it into an unprecedented hit. Bernthal has said he went a little method when it came to playing Shane Walsh. Bernthal did his best to really get himself into Shane's mindset while portraying the character. The focus comes through in Shane's unique gait and tendency to scratch at his head. According to Bernthal, the uneasiness of Shane's physicality shows how he is at constant odds with himself and his actions. The dedication to his character bled into Bernthal's everyday life. He said that fighting zombies day in and day out while filming truly made him hate the creatures. While working on the show, he'd frequently have dreams about fighting zombies in character. When he saw fans of the show dressed as zombies at conventions, he joked that he wanted to attack. Bernthal's method acting on The Walking Dead carried over to the rest of his career. In 2016, he told Jimmy Kimmel that he stayed in character between takes on the sets of Daredevil and The Punisher.
Yeah, a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, I know it sounds so pretentious.
So do you punish people if you're around punishing them?
Some might credit Shane as being the first villain in The Walking Dead, but the character really is more of a hero than a villain. In the beginning of the show, he saves Lori and Carl, and he helps lead a whole group of survivors to safety. While tensions rise between Rick and Shane's leadership styles throughout Season 2, Shane is still fully committed to doing what he thinks is best for the survival of the group. Bernthal believes that even in Shane's final moments, he's acting in the interest of the group. He thinks there's a part of Shane that believes he can no longer be around the others. By threatening Rick in the episode Better Angels, he's really forcing his friend to be the kind of man who can make difficult decisions on behalf of everyone else. Bernthal thinks Shane is almost sacrificing himself for the betterment of the group. Of course, the Punisher is Marvel's most famous anti-hero, and his pursuit of justice in Daredevil certainly has that sort of attitude. The work Bernthal put into crafting Shane as a sympathetic anti-hero arguably helped prepare him for his next major role. The early days of The Walking Dead were like a pressure cooker for the team involved in creating AMC's zombie apocalypse. The project brought everyone close together, and Bernthal found a family among his co-workers on the show. He grew very close to Frank Darabont, the show's creator and first showrunner, and to Andrew Lincoln, who auditioned for the show alongside Bernthal. Speaking to comicbook.com, Bernthal said, "Those folks are still some of my best friends in the world. And the bonds that were formed in the beginning of that show, a family was formed." He says that Lincoln has become like a brother to him. In Bernthal's opinion, those close bonds helped to make the show as special as it is. He learned that genuine connections on set spill onto the screen. They not only make filming a show more enjoyable, but they also make the series better for its viewers. Anyone is bound to pick up a few survival tips and tricks while spending years working on a show about living in a post-apocalyptic world. That's especially true for Bernthal, since his character has a heightened survival instinct, even when compared to the other characters on The Walking Dead. There's nothing that Shane won't do to keep himself and the people he cares about alive, even if that means abandoning some pre-apocalypse morality. When asked if starring on the show improved his odds of survival in a real zombie apocalypse, Bernthal said it had, because he learned a few new tricks. However, that doesn't mean he thinks that he'd make it in the long run. According to Bernthal, when the going gets tough, no one will make it out alive. That's a disappointing prognosis for the state of humanity, but it comes straight from the horse's mouth.
I sat there and I weeped and, I felt sorry for myself and I knew it was over.
Shane's death on The Walking Dead was one of the show's most dramatic moments early in its run. Despite Bernthal saying he is happy for being a part of it and getting out when he did, his exit was more emotional off-screen than in the series itself. Shane died in Better Angels, the second to last episode of Season 2. Bernthal shot his final scene with Andrew Lincoln, and they were joined by the rest of the show's cast. The group spent the entire night in a field by Herschel's farmhouse, making sure that they got the scene just right. Even Jeff DeMunn, whose character Dale had died an episode previously, made sure he was on set for Bernthal's last scene. He flew out to the set in Georgia from his farm in upstate New York to be there for the send-off. Bernthal described shooting his final scene in an interview with Entertainment Weekly. He said, "And to go out the way I did and go out with who I did, it was, and still is, very emotional." The scene finished shooting at 6 a.m., after which the cast quietly walked back to the farm, where Bernthal gave a teary-eyed speech to close things out. Bernthal's last shoot wasn't supposed to be his last day on set. The Walking Dead still needed to film the season 2 finale, and Bernthal was invited out to the set to join the cast for filming. He hiked out to Herschel's farm with Sarah Wayne Callies, intending to spend the day with his co-stars. But he couldn't bring himself to do it. Bernthal has said he saw everyone out on the farm, gearing up to film the chaotic conclusion to season 2. And he had a sense that the show was theirs now, and that it was time to move on. Instead of joining everyone on set, Bernthal found a place in the woods to sit back and watch the filming by himself. He later laughed about what happened on his actual last day, telling Entertainment Weekly, "I sound like the biggest weirdo in the world, but I didn't say goodbye. I couldn't."
Do not mess this up.
Before joining The Walking Dead, Bernthal split his time between acting for the camera and acting on the stage. Talking about his start in acting, Bernthal said he was first exposed to the craft when taking a class in college. He credits his professor with truly making him fall in love with acting. She encouraged him to study in Moscow, and after that, Bernthal attended the ART at Harvard, where he earned his MFA. Early on, he had no interest in becoming a TV or film star, and preferred being a theater actor. He spent years acting on the stage and slowly started taking parts in films and television pilots. When he first read the pilot script for The Walking Dead, he told his agent he would even be an extra on the show. Bernthal actually turned down work offers on the off chance that he got a part in The Walking Dead. When he was cast in the show, Bernthal completely dedicated himself to making it a success. The Walking Dead outperformed everyone's expectations, and Bernthal himself was a major part of that. The role became his breakthrough, and he's been steadily starring in shows and films ever since. There always comes a time when an actor stops keeping up with the show after they've left it. Bernthal revealed that he stopped watching The Walking Dead for fairly mundane reasons. After playing Shane, his career skyrocketed, and his schedule became much busier. On top of that, Bernthal has a family of his own, including 3 children and a handful of pit bulls. While Bernthal said he stopped watching the series, he told Jake's Takes,
I'm enormously grateful for that show, and I'm enormously grateful for the people I got to make it with.
Despite his busy schedule, Bernthal has found the time to make 2 guest appearances on The Walking Dead after his departure. The first was in Season 3, Episode 8, and the second was in Season 9, Episode 5. He also still stays in touch with the crew behind the series, saying they will always be like family to him.
Few child actors have had a life story as redemptive as iCarly's Jennette McCurdy. Though her TV days are over, her life was forever changed by the show, for better or sometimes worse. Becoming a child star was never an aspiration for Jennette McCurdy, but rather for her mother, Deborah. McCurdy alleged that it was her mom who had wanted to become an actor, but when those dreams didn't happen, Deborah relentlessly pursued that dream with her daughter. McCurdy's childhood home life was also troubled. She was homeschooled in a religious household, her parents constantly fought, and her mother was a compulsive hoarder. McCurdy said that most of the obsessive behavior was attributed to her mother's health at the time. In Jennette's infancy, her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. The actor said that her mother began living vicariously through her and sent McCurdy into the world of child acting. Deborah also routinely examined her daughter's body for signs of cancer, among other troubling behaviors that deeply traumatized McCurdy. It became difficult for the Nickelodeon star to challenge her mother's authority, as she would often remind McCurdy how lucky she was for her early success on iCarly. In her memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, McCurdy writes that Deborah would constantly tell her, "Everyone wants what you have." The pressure on Jennette McCurdy only got worse the more successful iCarly became. Desperate to keep up appearances on television, McCurdy's mother taught her to develop an eating disorder when she was only 11 years old. As McCurdy later recounted in a Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith, her mom was the one who encouraged her to restrict calories.
We were just in the disease, in the sickness, but there was a connection that the sickness created that I, of course, couldn't see at the time.
McCurdy's struggles with anorexia and bulimia followed her into iCarly and beyond. She was limiting herself to under 1,000 calories a day in an attempt to make her mom proud. Even after the death of McCurdy's mother, the eating disorder grew worse, with the actor at one point collapsing in co-star Miranda Cosgrove's bathroom. Many child stars from Disney Channel and Nickelodeon have attempted music careers after the success of stars Selena Gomez and Miley Cyrus. In her 2022 memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, McCurdy revealed that when iCarly was shut down due to the 2007 WGA strike, her mother pushed her into pursuing country music. In 2009, she signed a record deal with Capitol Records, turning down an offer from Taylor Swift's then-home label Big Machine Records. After releasing several singles and EPs, McCurdy released her debut self-titled album in 2012, but McCurdy's music career didn't last long, as the Nickelodeon star ended up leaving Capitol Records because of a commitment to her new iCarly spin-off show, Sam and Cat. McCurdy expressed regret over her country music days in her memoir, though the brief stint offered one huge shift in her life. Deborah's cancer returned and McCurdy was able to go on tour without her. It was the first time the two were separated since McCurdy was a young child, but her solo excursion ended up creating more guilt for McCurdy. She told The Guardian in 2022, "God did it feel to feel relief that I'm going to be away from my mom for the first time, when my mom also was just diagnosed with cancer and was dying." Nickelodeon's iCarly ended its run in 2012, though Jennette McCurdy didn't stray far from the network in its immediate aftermath. In 2013, the actor starred in a spin-off series with Ariana Grande, Sam and Cat. When McCurdy initially signed on to the show, she was under the impression that it was meant to be a solo series for her character Sam Puckett. Nickelodeon instead redeveloped it to include Grande's character. While filming Sam and Cat, things started to spin out of Jennette McCurdy's favor at the network. She revealed in her memoir that Grande was consistently given preferential treatment on the program, missing entire weeks to pursue her music career. McCurdy was forced to turn down several film offers due to her contractual obligations to Sam and Cat, a standard Grande was not held to. McCurdy has since softened towards Grande in recent years. She told Vogue in 2022, "I'm able to look back on it and just see it as the comedy gold that it is, to be on set at 21 where you're just the most susceptible to jealousy and comparison that you can possibly be, and I'm there across from a burgeoning pop star of the day."
Is it that bad? No, you barely notice it.
A good portion of Jennette McCurdy's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, recounts her experiences with The Creator, a pseudonym for iCarly and Sam and Cat creator Dan Schneider. Schneider's behavior was common knowledge by the time of the book's release. Nickelodeon severed ties with him in 2018, and he has since been accused of verbal abuse and sexual misconduct. McCurdy's memoir only added fuel to the fire. She claimed that he intimidated her into underage drinking, among other inappropriate actions he committed towards her. She wrote, "The creator is doing the thing that I've heard from my co-stars he does with every new star of a show that he's making. He takes you under his wing. You're his favorite, for now." McCurdy began to rely heavily on alcohol due to the stress and abuse she was facing. She opened up about her relationship with alcohol for the first time in a 2020 episode of her podcast, Empty Inside. As if the treatment Jennette McCurdy faced from Nickelodeon on iCarly and Sam and Cat wasn't enough, the actor was also limited in her opportunities outside of the network. Aside from having to turn down movie offers due to Nickelodeon-related commitments, McCurdy instead began making appearances in similar projects on Nickelodeon. Her guest spots on other popular Nickelodeon shows included True Jackson, VP, and Victorious. While her frequent appearances got her nominations at the Teen Choice Awards and Kids' Choice Awards, there was little career benefit the older she got. It wasn't until after iCarly and Sam and Cat were over that McCurdy branched out to more serious roles. She appeared in the 2016 thriller Pet, and most notably the Netflix drama Between, in which she starred for 2 seasons. In 2018, she made her directorial debut with a short film, Kenny, which premiered on YouTube's Short of the Week. McCurdy was especially proud of the project, having assembled an all-female crew to help her make it. McCurdy didn't have the benefit of leaving Nickelodeon on good terms. She stated in her memoir that the network offered her $300,000 to stay quiet about her experiences with Dan Schneider. Though she ultimately turned the hush money down, she briefly regretted the decision. These days, she's proud that she chose the path of morality rather than caving to the network that exploited her. The death of Jennette McCurdy's mother, Deborah, was a pivotal moment in the young actor's life. Her mother died in 2013, just 3 years after receiving word that her cancer had returned when McCurdy was only 21 years old. Even without the monumental figure in her life controlling her every decision, it took years before McCurdy could reconcile with the damage done. McCurdy believes the kind of healing she was able to do wouldn't be possible with her mother still alive, stating that therapy wasn't an option at the time. Even when she finally started to seek help, it was a long road to figure out how she really felt. She recounted on The View that it was tough going to the first therapist she saw.
Where she said, "You know, what you're describing is abuse," and I left. I quit therapy. I couldn't tolerate the idea, the notion that my mom was abusive.
McCurdy takes great pride in her ongoing mental health journey, which she credits to unpacking years of emotional and psychological abuse at the hands of her mother. In 2014, Sam and Cat was canceled after 1 season, ending Jennette McCurdy's 7-year tenure on Nickelodeon. A lifetime's worth of trauma had occurred to the actor during that time, but within a year, she would make the first steps towards shaping the rest of her career. McCurdy began with creating, writing, and starring in her own web series, What's Next for Sarah? The autobiographical 4-episode show finds McCurdy playing Sarah, whose hit tween TV show is canceled, throwing her life in disarray as she tries to figure out what to do next. The cast of What's Next for Sarah starred many Nickelodeon friends of McCurdy's, including Mary Scheer, Shane Topp, and Danielle Morrow. The show was McCurdy's first opportunity to grapple with what her career in entertainment has meant on her own terms. She's continued to write and create art about what's happened to her, while simultaneously pursuing a career that has kept her far away from her Nickelodeon past. There are one too many stories in Hollywood of child actors being taken advantage of by the adults in their lives. McCurdy was no different, given the extreme control exerted on her life and career by her mother. While McCurdy's acting success was a fulfillment of her mom's lifelong dream to be a star, there was also a practical purpose for it. Through her acting gigs, Jennette became the breadwinner of her family, supporting her parents, grandparents, and 3 older brothers. But McCurdy didn't receive any of the money she earned working as an actor. Her Coogan account, which is meant to shave off 15% of the salary a child actor makes into a savings account, was never properly filed. As a result, McCurdy is unaware of what happened to all of the money or where it went, but it's believed to have been stolen by her mom. McCurdy's hard work paid off in other regards later in life. In 2022, she released her New York Times best-selling memoir, all about the abuse she suffered from her mother. McCurdy confirmed that her older brothers were in favor of her decision to speak out. She told The Hollywood Reporter, "My brothers have been so supportive, so understanding, they get the title, to put it simply." In 2020, McCurdy debuted her first one-woman show, I'm Glad My Mom Died, which was her most vulnerable work to date. She was initially hesitant about performing the show herself, though she eventually realized that only she could tell her own story. The stage show ran only for a few months at the start of 2020 before the COVID-19 pandemic shut down live theater. During the pandemic, McCurdy continued the conversations about her past on her podcast series Empty Inside. With guests like Anna Faris, Mike Birbiglia, and Daniel Sloss, she opened up about her mom, her relationship with alcohol, and her career. After reviving the one-woman show in 2021, she turned her story into a memoir in 2022. I'm Glad My Mom Died sparked lots of media attention as she came forward about the abuse she suffered from both her mother and Nickelodeon.
I think that anything worth saying is probably going to be divisive. I think if it's not divisive, there's probably no new conversation to be had there.
The book almost immediately sold out on online retailers and remained at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list for 8 weeks. McCurdy has since signed a new deal to write books for Penguin Random House. She told the New York Times, "Felt like finally I'm saying my words and saying things I want to be saying. I'm myself." McCurdy's life has been quite the roller coaster ever since she was first cast on iCarly in 2007. Though she's been through a lot of unimaginable tragedy and harrowing trauma, McCurdy has come out on the other side stronger and braver. In 2021, Paramount Plus made the decision to reboot iCarly, bringing back Miranda Cosgrove, Nathan Kress, and Jerry Trainor to re-inhabit the characters they had last played in 2012, but McCurdy said no thank you. She described in her memoir that Cosgrove contacted her personally to invite her to reprise the role of Sam Puckett. Despite Cosgrove's encouragement, McCurdy refused to return, not wanting to retread the experience that caused her so much pain throughout her life. Nathan Kress later addressed McCurdy's absence on his own podcast, Radioactive Dads, saying, "I think it's just a personal decision and where she's at and what she wants to do."